Ladies and gentlemen, it is so much of a pleasure and a privilege to come into your homes, come into your devices, come into your spaces, wherever you are tuned in to this platform that is allowing us to reach you in a very unique and special edition. My name is Pastor Kervance Ross. I am the president of KDR Consulting. And tonight I put together an all star panel that will have a conversation and a dialogue about something I realize nobody in the church is talking about. So before we go any further, I'm asking you whether you're watching us on YouTube, thank you for tuning in, whether you're on the KDR page, our KDR consulting page, or if you're on one of my platform pages, welcome. Take a moment to tag and share with your pastor, your senior pastor, your church, your deacons, your decision makers, your trustees, your board of directors. Pull them in and tag them right now because this is a conversation that you're not going to want to miss. And I'm so excited to be able to have this platform with you. And let's get right into the crux of the reality. We're still celebrating, we're still rejoicing over the fact that now, almost 7 days ago, we went out to cast our votes. People said your vote didn't matter. And so many African Americans, so many people of color, brown and black people, minorities went out, and because of Corona, we voted early. We did it in record numbers. And being a hometown boy from Atlanta, we shifted the narrative. People in Philadelphia, people in Milwaukee, people in Arizona, people all over the nation shifted it. And for several days, much like me, you were probably biting your nails, trying to figure out were we going to have to still deal with the orange man in the White House. And then on Saturday, we received the news that President Joseph R. Biden Jr. was now going to be our president elect. For the first time, an African American woman, an HBCU graduate, a part of the Black Panhandle Society, was making history. And she would become the first female vice president. And we felt a little bit more secure than we had felt over the last 4 years. And it is now interesting that because of COVID, because of the circumstances of March 15th, that most churches have not been in their sanctuary. We moved from being in the brick and mortar, we ultimately ended up on the cyber sanctuary. And as a result, we found ourselves, whether by design or by divine consequence, in a space where we were online. We were able to go to the uttermost parts of the world by simply clicking on. And I know a few of you have never moved into that space, and that's okay. But the truth be told, we are now in the cyberspace. We're on the internet, and the world has become smaller. And many of you, after almost 37 weeks, have become acclimated to this space. The challenge is that we don't realize that as Christians, as pastors, as preachers of the gospel, we've been talking about being saved from sin, death, hell, and the grave. We've been offering Christ to people every Sunday. We've been pulling people into the real world from out in the marketplace. And all of a sudden, we've been talking about cyber salvation, but we've never talked about being saved from the attacks of the cyber community. And tonight, I'm calling this cyber salvation for an unsaved church. Realize that if you're online, if you're doing anything by raising tithes and offering on your platform, if you are doing anything of the sort, you are a candidate for a cyber attack. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to bring you into the reality that this is a conversation you got to galvanize your church around. You got to galvanize your people around. You got to bring every pastor you know, because if you've got money in the bank, if you've got information on a platform that is digital, this conversation is for you. And I brought some experts in. If you would now allow this to be shared on your page, don't go any further. I want you to share this on every page, tag somebody, text somebody, and let them know that we're getting ready to start a conversation that you cannot afford to miss. Because I understand that this is a time where, because of the fact that the church is returning to the way it was in the civil rights movement, where the church is now galvanizing our communities. We are making sure that our economy is at its highest level. We are clearing up food insecurities with people in our communities. We're not just doing church, we're doing service. You've got us focusing in on bridging the digital divide, making sure that people have all of the needs and the necessities that life brings to them. The church is now a threat to the world. We're realizing that stuff is shifting. And if you're in this reality, you now understand that as Donald Trump moves out and Joe Biden moves in, if you're on the political forefront as a pastor, if you're concerned about your community as a ministry leader, you are now a threat to what is abnormal. And you can't move forward successfully if they capture your resources through a digital attack. You're one email away from a cyber attack on your church. And we don't want that to happen. So we are opening up a discussion tonight for just a few minutes on how you can find your church, your ministry, everything that you're doing in the faith-based space, cyber saved. I don't want your soul to be saved and your checking accounts to be unsaved, your data to be unsaved, anything that you're doing online to be unsaved. So if this is making sense to you, tag somebody. And I want to bring our panel onto the screen. We are so grateful. If you do me a favor, if you text, there's a text solution on the bottom. You text Kingmaker to 31996. Text Kingmaker to 31996. We have some information that will be coming to you as soon as this session is over that will allow you, your church, no matter how big or small you believe you are, we want you to be cyber safe. First person I want to bring in as I start introducing our guests, I want to bring in an individual who I've gotten a great deal of respect and insight from. Gentleman named Art Hauser. Art Hauser is somebody that I think each one of you should know. And because of the sensitivity of his profession, I'm going to let him introduce himself and we're going to get into a brief dialogue. Art Hauser, thank you, Mr. Hauser, for joining us. I appreciate you getting into this conversation about cyber salvation. The platform is yours. Feel free to introduce yourself and we'll get right into the dialogue.
Good evening, Pastor Ross. I'm very humble that you pulled me into this space and allowing me to be a part of this. I thank you. I thank Pastor Bryant and all the other attendants for being here. Again, my name is Arthur Hauser. I work for a major IT, some people would call it a major IT company. We probably started out the business making typewriters. But since then, we've moved on. I've been in the business, in the IT business for over 35 years. Been in the IT security business for over 15 years. I loved it. People call me a hacker, but I contend to say my title is compliance specialist. My group, we consult with our clients on setting their security settings, and I'm the person that comes behind them and makes sure that those settings are compliant with the contract, and just kind of advise our clients on the best ways to keep their doors locked, if you would, and their windows closed. Go ahead, Pastor.
That's an interesting way to start because I know a lot of people are scratching their heads saying, I've never ever thought about cybersecurity from a church standpoint. And a real live, as I like to call you, hacker, is on the conversation. And when you think about it from a church dynamic, we have always been passing pans. We've always been able to do snail mail. But with the development of technology, we moved into the Ethernet, into the internet. We moved into modems and platforms. How realistic is this conversation about a church being hacked? or a ministry being attacked? Is this a real conversation, or am I just out in the galaxy drawing up something that can't be real?
It's very real, Pastor, and it's something as simple as clicking on an attachment from an email that comes from someone that you think is that person that you know. A lot of times we
Wow.
call that phishing. Go ahead.
Wow, no, I'm blown away. So you're saying it can be as simple as somebody on your staff just clicking an email, and
Clicking
this
an
could start.
attachment, right, to download
Wow.
an email. And what happens is we call that a phishing attack. And what they're doing is it looks like it's coming from a legitimate email, but actually it's been spoofed to look like a legitimate email. And people will say, hey, download this. It may be something funny. A lot of times, and since the last week or so, we've probably seen a lot of as you called our President Orange, making fun of him. And that attachment could have malware on it or a Trojan horse, which will download some software onto that person's laptop or their PC. And once it's downloaded onto their laptop, it can duplicate itself and even send itself through the network that's in the church. So you open yourself up from just a simple click of an email or an attachment, and now you've opened up your church to the vulnerability of a Trojan horse and allowing someone to get into your network.
Look, I don't know if you've been taking this conversation seriously up to this point. I'm needing everybody, uh, mama, daddy, as the old preacher used to say, big sis, little sis, buddy, and the baby. I need you to tag everybody you know, because we're having a real conversation about cyber salvation. This is a dialogue that is going to allow you to not just be saved from sin, death, hell, and the grave. It's going to allow you to be saved from attacks that you may not be able to recover from. In this space, I want you to do a few things. I want you to text right away. The Kingmaker. Use your device. Text Kingmaker to the number 31996. You'll see it scrolling on the bottom of the screen. And on top of that, we're going to allow for some questions. So if you've got questions, you'll be able to post those questions on the platform that you're on, and our team is going to be able to pull this up. Art Hauser, you were saying that it can literally be an email, a funny message. And I'm realizing you got me thinking. I've been getting emails as a business owner from Square. I've been getting duplicate emails from PayPal. They've even been able to fish and mask themselves as my service providers,
Right.
and telling me that, hey, we're getting ready to have this. We're going to debit your account because there has been some kind of fraud on your account. If this is in your church and I'm on my church's platform, I'm using my church's system, are you telling me that a hacker is literally allowing your church to be opened up and exposed to more trouble than they can get out of? From your point of view, how does this happen and how can it be avoided?
Well, that attachment or that link that you click on will actually take you either will download some malware onto your computer into your network, or it will take you to another website and maybe even ask you for some personal information. You may have gotten some information that says, "Oh, we're updating our files, and we need you to click on this link and update your personal information." So that information, it may, and what I suggest, if it's like from a banking or from some kind of a banking institution, to go directly to that website from your known link and not use the link that's in that email. But it's very easy to do that from. It's very easy to have to allow that vulnerability to not only your network but to your church's information just by clicking on that attachment.
Ladies and gentlemen, I need you sharing this. I need you texting, tagging, dynamically sharing this message with people who you know are in the church, your senior pastor, your deacons, your board of directors, your trustees. This is a conversation about cyber salvation, and we have a real live hacker here that is letting us know that it is real simple to simply just pull up in your parking lot, come to your church, get on your platform, or know some of your addresses and be able to send the wrong message and literally take over everything that you're doing. Art Hauser, you've blown me away. I know you got something you want to say, and I want to transition into that next segment, but I want to hear what you have to say. Go right ahead, sir.
Well, when you just mentioned something about the Wi-Fi or driving up on your network, you want to make sure that your Wi-Fi to your church's network or even on your personal space at home has a strong password. And when I say a strong password, you have a combination of letters, numbers, capital letters, and special characters in that password. It makes it too easy for you to have a password that has 1, 2, 3 ABC. That's too easy, and you don't want to use that. You want to make strong passwords. I recommend 8 characters or longer, and we got out of the password and started using passphrases like God is love. That it's easy to remember. God is love. Change the O to a 0, make the capital G, anything that makes it a combination that's harder to guess. So that's all I wanted to. I know we're going to transition into the next segment, but those are my suggestions as strong passwords, and don't click on any attachments that you don't know where they're coming from.
Art Hauser, thank you so much. We're going to switch into our next segment. Everybody that's tuned in, this is a serious conversation about cyber salvation. And you heard our on in-house hacker being able to tell you that it is not as simple as saying I'm moving my password from 1, 2, 3, 4 pound to 4, 5, 6, 7 hashtag. It's the same thing. You're not moving anything. You still are under attack. You are still in a situation where you are not safe. And today we're going to be able to give you some solutions. We're going to give you some answers. So you want to make sure that you're texting Kingmaker to 31996, sharing, getting this message out, because this is a conversation that must be had. Nobody is thinking about this. Nobody is having a dynamic conversation around it. And I don't want you to move forward into the remainder of 2020 thinking that you're safe simply because you got a firewall up, that you now have encrypted your passwords on Safari. It is not that simple as a ministry. And the only person that I knew that I could bring in that has the influence from a pastoral platform, who is a global figure, who is leading people on a civil rights level and understands for now almost 2 decades what it means to be not just saved from sin, death, hell, and the grave, but he understands what it means to be global, to be impactful, and to give a message to the church that nobody else wants to hear. And I'm honored to be able to bring my pastor, my mentor, the individual who has given me so many opportunities, Dr. Jamal Bryant, on this platform. Pastor Bryant, thank you
No,
for coming on.
it's my privilege. Thank you so very much. I want to, before I share from my heart, I want to urge all of you to please text and tag your pastor. He or she needs to be in this dialogue. I need you to text a chair of your deacon board or your trustee board. Text and tag whoever is in your back room that counts money. A couple of things that I want to share. I am technologically impotent, but Pastor Ross really is my Gatorade to give me strength in this area. And so I want to give some practical things for you to be aware of as pastors. And then I'll volley the ball back over to Pastor Ross and his team. Several things have happened here at New Birth. When we first seen that the currency is moving to technology, this is before COVID-19 hit, I thought I was doing something radical and revolutionary and offered up Cash App as a giving proponent and opportunity. Lo and behold, Cash App shut down New Birth's page, not once, but twice, saying we were under investigation for money laundering because they didn't know where that money was coming from. I presently have wrapped up in Cash App $150,000 I can't get to while it is that they're doing their investigation. I know that's not what this dialogue is about, but I needed to say that to pastors to make sure that while we are virtual, that you are partnering not only on your side that is secure, but with a giving apparatus that is secure and trusted. This conversation came to bear because of a mega church that all of you all would know on the East Coast was hacked. It was hacked on the East Coast. Large, thriving, progressive ministry. And the hackers took their database, shut down their webpage, took control of their social media, and the FBI was contacted. FBI came in and did a forensic analysis of all of their devices, all of their platforms, and said to the church, we'll negotiate it to pay it down, but you're still going to have to pay something. The hands were cuffed because until they paid it, they couldn't even stream. The reason why we're giving this to you tonight is, can you imagine having to get online Sunday telling your members don't give because it's not safe? Because not only may we lose your data, we may lose your giving. I'm a third generation preacher, and those of you who are on this line know something about the mechanics of the church. And we used to have our hierarchy of authority. The hierarchy of authority of the church used to be, pre-COVID, who got a key to the church. You got a key, I mean you was powerful, you was influential, you was the man, you had it. Secondarily, you thought that you were really promoted and elevated. You got to stand down front during the offering, hold up a basket. Then you went out the side door while the rest of us had to sit in worship. You got to sit in the finance room, drink a Coca-Cola, laugh with the guys, count up the money. Now it's all digital. And that shifted. Ain't nobody holding the stacks of checks, the stacks of 20s, and all the coins. Now we're just waiting for the receipts to come in. How do we safeguard it? Because all of the discussions that we've been hearing about is how preaching has changed. Discipleship has changed. There's still no looming answer about how we even do baptism. As a 23-month Baptist, I'm still wrestling over how do we give the right hand to fellowship. But now we've got to go a little bit deeper, a little bit wider, a little bit lower, of securing the church. And amazing, I'm old enough to know that before we only used to have security outside the pastor's office and outside the finance room. And it's amazing, the only people who we would enlist for security was somebody who we deputized with the unordained title armor bearer. And now we've got to talk about security at a whole nother level. How do we safeguard Sister Jane, who's really invested into that church because she got no family? How do we safeguard the Johnsons, who have in fact built a legacy in that ministry and are as proud of it as they are of themselves? How do we safeguard it when we are now in the looming shadow and the shroud of a president who will not concede and evangelicals who claim that this is demonic warfare? And you think, Pastor, with your outspoken voice, with your radical inclinations, with your preaching of liberation theology, that you won't be a target. I'm telling you, in this moment and in this hour, you're going to have to take every nugget that is being poured into you on this day. When we first started going completely virtual, I've got a complete media team that sits in. When we started back in March, and now it feels like a lifetime ago, my mediators, what I'll call her, had to step in on my live broadcast from all the Russian messages that were in my sermon. People that were typing in Arabic, we had to block. And that was our greatest annoyance. We had no idea that now they can infiltrate the tithe, go into our savings account, and all is lost. Pastors, you're on here. You already know that the cardinal sin of losing your ministry in a black construct, do not play with black people's money. They are not going to believe it was Putin. They are not going to sign up that the Russians did it. You have to be held accountable. And so when I'm asking you, hear me, this is not a revival, turn to your neighbor. In this session of what it is that Pastor Ross has dutifully planned out for you today, let's give nobody a high five. We don't want emojis in the chat room. But I need you to write down all of this information. I need you to please do a task force. First thing that Joe Biden has done today was organize a task force around COVID. He said, I need people at the table who can think for me and can help me wield off this wave that is crashing onto the shores of this country. And so I need you to get all of this data, all this information. I hope you're texting your pastor, tagging your church, your deacons, your leaders. And after this is over, I need you all to have a conversation. And if need be, I need you to please utilize all of the gifts and graces that Pastor Ross has at your disposal. The marketplace is ready, but the church is naked and ashamed. And God is coming through asking, who told you you were naked? And before we can respond, the hackers are saying, we did. So I ask that you'll please cover yourself, cover your ministry, and cover your vineyard, because the enemy comes to steal. He wants to kill your legacy, your savings, your inheritance, and he wants to destroy the credibility of fiduciary responsibility. I'm excited. I'm locked in. My leaders are on. I hope that you'll get yours on as well.
Pastor Bryant, nobody could have said it better than you. And as we are dialoguing, I'm thinking about conversations we had in January when we were thinking that COVID was going no further. My worst suggestion was Father's Day.
Right.
And now we are here almost at December in a second wave. And it's almost like cyber attacks are the cyber COVID for the church.
Yes.
And it is in this space where, much like in January and in February, people were thinking, this can't happen to me. This is not going to happen in my circumstance. And all I need to do is just stay away from certain people. From a pastoral standpoint, why should a church who doesn't believe that they're mega, who doesn't believe that they are any threat to society, who doesn't believe that this could happen to them, why is this such an important conversation beyond the normal preaching, pastoring, and prophet? What makes this conversation different?
My secular background is in political science. I am now pastoring and talking to you all from Georgia, where the whole world is going to be looking over the next 60 days between here and January 5th, as the real breadth of power in the U.S. Senate comes down to Georgia with two runoffs. In politics, two things make you powerful. In politics, two things make you powerful. Number one, your ability to raise money. And number two, your capacity to draw people. You have to understand the whole notion of mega church is a pre-COVID existence. There is no such thing as a mega church. If you are collecting money, you are in fact a threat. If you are able to amass people to watch you, you are a threat. And when it is that you're watching, please know this is not even just how many watch you live. Go back and watch tomorrow on that number, how many more people watched you, how many more people shared it. Don't underestimate your value. I'll say this to you, Pastor Ross, in closing. I'll never forget, I was in a blog over some foolishness, some lies, propaganda. I called my dad, hurt and upset, Bishop Jamal Bryant. I said, Dad, I don't understand why this is happening to me. I don't know why my name keep being in this stuff. And my father, Kervance, looked me in the eye and said something that still rattled me to this day. Bishop Bryant looked at me and says, I am so disappointed in you. I said, in me? I didn't do nothing. I didn't write it. I said, this time it ain't true. Why are you disappointed in me? He says, I'm disappointed in you because it's clear to me now you still don't know who you are.
Wow.
That is the real weight, pastor and churches, that you still don't know who you are. You are oblivious to this attack and to think that the enemy is not taking notice of you. This is the most significant election of our time, of knowing more people voted now than for Obama, for Clinton, or for Bush. And you were on the right side of history, or the wrong side of evangelicalism. And I need you to note that no hackers have broken into an evangelical church. Take that for what it is that is worth, but know who it is that you are.
Dr. Bryant, if you hang tight with us, we're going to come back around the horn. I want to stop and plug this reality that if you minimized who you were before this conversation, before this communication, you've done yourself an injustice. I want you to understand that you are in a prime space for an attack. This is so much like being in a situation and a circumstance where I grew up. I'll date myself by telling you I grew up in the inner city, and I remember when my great grandmother's house, she got burglar bars installed on the doors and on the windows, and she was excited moving from the screen door to having burglar doors. But could you imagine if you had those burglar doors on your house, but you had some Basquiat paintings on the inside? You had some Rembrandts, you had some Picassos, and you had other valuable items therein. And all you did was put burglar bar doors and you put burglar bars on the windows, but you never hired ADT. You never put a camera in there. You never put security in front of the yard. You are literally telling yourself that my priceless items mean nothing to me. And if you can understand that reality, you can understand that if you're a pastor with people that God has given you to shepherd, if you are a leader, a ministry leader, a deacon who is overseeing the finances and understanding that this is your responsibility to be a good steward over people's resources that they are sowing and pouring into your local church, and you think that cybersecurity is not necessary. You think that I'm just being a futurist and looking so far into the future that this doesn't apply to you, that this pastor of internet and innovation concept, this is just you going way too far with the prophetic. Let me bring you back into the reality that I see a reality that this circumstance is shifting from the norm. And I want you to be able to be prepared for the shift. We're in the midst of it. So if you do me a favor, text Kingmaker through your device to the number on the bottom of the screen. Pull your people in, follow the platforms. I'm not just in the ministry, but I'm in the marketplace. And because of this conversation, because of this circumstance, because of this dialogue, I've taken my marketing and strategic development firm and partnered with a extremely credible security firm, All in One Security. And two of my partners are here for us to dig a little deeper into the weeds so that you understand that where you are as a church, we have solutions to help you, whether small or large, whether you think you are nobody or you realize that you are somebody. This is a conversation that you need to have. And I want to bring my partners in. I'm going to encourage you that if you have questions, we're going to take a few questions when this is over. But I want you to make sure that you are asking your questions here and now. And because of this, I have brought some cybersecurity experts in, partners who have come in with my firm, along with my partnership with All-in-One Security, and they have mastered this platform for the Black church. I want to introduce to you Damon Ross and Sheldon Mundell. Thank you, brethren, for joining us. Thank you for joining in this discussion. And you've heard Dr. Bryant so eloquently set up the reality of why this conversation needs to be had. You heard Art Hauser talk about it from a hacking standpoint. And there are churches who will see this and think, I'm an IT guy. I have an IT team there. I have this in place. Why is this necessary? We put the firewalls up. We've purchased malware. Why is this such a serious conversation? And why would I take my resources and then put them in the cybersecurity if there's a possibility that nothing would happen to me? Gentlemen, I want to open this floor up to you and just allow you to introduce and talk about the seriousness of this. Because when I came to you, you said, man, we've not even thought or considered this at all. But now that we've been dealing with it and talking about it, tell us why this is a conversation that needs to be had and we really need to dig deep with it.
Sure. Go ahead, Damon.
So, again, it's an honor to be here. Jamal Ross, I founded Cyber Defense International, which is a boutique cybersecurity consulting firm. We offer pretty much two primary offerings to our clients. We conduct assessments of their current program and provide recommendations on how they can increase and mature their security posture. But then we're also from our operations center here in Atlanta, Georgia, we have clients where we're actually monitoring their networks and looking for signs of cyber attacks. To Pastor Ross's questions about the firewalls and the antivirus software and all this technology that we're buying and we're installing on our networks, and we're assuming or hoping that we're safe. You have to remember, the bad guys, the cyber criminals, buy that same software. And when they write these phishing emails and they craft these cyber attacks, they test them on that same software that we can buy at Best Buy or any other technology store. So the bad guys are figuring out how they can get around that software, and then that's how they're being so successful. So technology is one thing. The other component that's typically missing is you have to have people who understand what a cyber attack looks like, what to look for, and actually watching and monitoring what those technologies are seeing. Because if you just install it and kind of walk away, like I say, you'll see the bad guys trying to get in, because they only have to succeed one time. As a defender, we have to be right every time. They only have to succeed one time. And if nobody's watching, firewall or no firewall, your data's out on the dark web somewhere. So,
wow, I don't want to seem dark to anybody on the platform or who's watching us, but this is a serious conversation. And you said something that threw me. You said that the same malware we're buying, the dark web hackers and the people who are trying to break into your system have bought the same software and figured out how to navigate around it.
Absolutely.
When this happens, though, what is a church? Sheldon, tell us, what is a church equipped to do if we never have this conversation? If this never becomes a reality, what is this that a church should be able to do?
Well, thanks for the opportunity, Pastor Ross. Before I answer your question, I want to give background. I've been doing technology for over 25 years. I started with IBM, KPMG, the big firms. I now have my own consulting firm. And my role is to help people figure out the strategy and the path of you should pull together to address questions like you just asked, right? What should you do? What capabilities should you have if you want to do not just technology, but cybersecurity capabilities? So when it comes to security of the church or any organization, the first thing you should understand is you need to be able to not only see the monitoring that Damon spoke about, but you need to be able to respond And let's be candid, a lot of churches don't have that built-in capability. A lot of organizations won't, because the skills change weekly. The attacks change weekly and monthly. It's almost like you have to have that partner who understands the new things as they come out, the new changes, tech changes every week, every day. They have to have that capability to not only monitor what's going on, but respond to the threats quickly so that you minimize whatever threat is out there. Nothing's going to be fail-safe. You need to be able to do that. And what we're able to do is assess where you are now and give you a stepwise plan to put things in place to not only monitor what's there, but also to respond. And so everyone's going to start at a different level. You have to say, do an assessment. This is where we are. Here are some gaps. And in a practical, cost-effective way, this is what we need to get going continually. It's a continual thing. It's not that you put it up and you walk away. Continually, you got to have these capabilities to respond, because you put something in place, 6 months later, 9 months, something else shifted. And it's a continual update. It's a continual platform. Hopefully that.
Yeah, this is a crazy space, because when I realized that this was a real reality, that the truth is, I don't believe that this was a one-off. I honestly believe that there is a progressive plot to see those ministries who are in the space of changing their communities, those ministries who are breaking down the walls of technological divide, who are meeting food insecurities, who are serious about economic empowerment and growth of a family. And none of us really think about this. In most cases, as a pastor, you think making sure that the people are tuned in right now, that our numbers of views are up, that the giving is in place, and then all of this other stuff, I don't have time to focus on it. And you're now sharing with us that we've got to put the mask of cybersecurity on the face of our church and make sure that we don't catch this virus that's going around. How are there some basic steps that the people can go through? And before we get there, I see your comments. Thank you so much. I know that many of you are in shock. And I want to throw the cold water on you. If you've got a question, I want you to be able to ask this. We're getting ready to wrap up. I want you to make sure that you text Kingmaker to 31996, because we're going to be able to deliver to you, once you respond to that, some practical steps to get your church in order. And if you're not following us on our platforms, I need you doing it right now. Tag your pastor. Tag your pastor friend, tag your deacons, tag everybody, because this is a conversation that the church has to have. What are some basic steps, Damon and Sheldon, that a church could do right now to know that they need to be in this space?
Thank you. So I'm going to talk, if you could break it up into two parts. I'm going to cover the non-technology things that should be done, and Damon could land on the technology things that can be done. Non-technology wise, there's policies and procedures you should have in certain training that you should have amongst your staff to say, Mr. Hauser spoke about clicking on fishes, but that's training, right? You need certain tools to train your staff on what to do. You need procedures on, if you think something happened, how do you report it quickly? How do you alert people? You need policies to say, when you have a laptop, this is how you handle it. This is how you get an update. It's something you need to do ongoing. Those policies and procedures, there's a litany of them you can go through. We could provide that at a later time once they text you. But the policies and procedures should be in place. And the last thing I'm going to say regarding that is, all organizations, especially churches, should make sure they have the right insurance in place in case something happens. You're insured from a cybersecurity insurance policy for the organization. A lot of people do not have that in place. And when something happens, there's lawsuits or people lost money or information is lost, you need insurance. And it's available. Your insurance company can give it to you. It's not your standard insurance. It's something else. It's a special rider for that. So policies and procedures, having the right insurance, having the right training, those are the non-technology components of security, cybersecurity that should be in place. Damon, if you could cover some of the technology things, that'd be good.
Sure, absolutely. So, one of the very basic things that organizations need to do, which whether you're a small business, a church, or even a Fortune 500 company, you need to understand, what does your computer network, your IT infrastructure look like? You know, if you're trying to secure a building or a house, you would never go in and start putting cameras anywhere unless you know the whole picture of what that building looks like. Most organizations don't really know what their computer networks look like, because people come, they leave, installs things on your network, or nobody knows it's there. It hasn't been updated or patched in years. So that's number one, really understanding what's connected to your network. Secondly, you have to do some sort of recurring vulnerability scanning, because that is what the bad guys are looking for. They're looking for computers on your network with software that's out of date, computers that are not configured correctly or configured in a way that will let them gain access. All of these things is what the bad guys are looking for 24 hours a day. So organizations have to put in place a process as to how they can continue to understand what is connected to my network, and is there anything connected to my network that shouldn't be on my network, and then how am I keeping my software updated to the latest security patches, um, against the most common vulnerabilities that the hackers are taking advantage of now.
Guys, we could talk about this all day, and we have something prepared for the people to be able to do so, but our time is drawing near. I want to take a few questions, and I want to go around the horn and allow each one of us to wrap up. Thank you all for tuning in. I know that we have 4 different platforms that we're on right now. Thank you to each one of you for tuning in, whether you're on our KDR page, whether you're on our YouTube pages, if you're on my personal page, wherever you are, thank you for tuning in. This is not a conversation that we take lightly. And I want you to make sure that either you email us at our corporate info at KDR Consults so that you can get the information and the next steps. Text us at the text solution at the bottom of the screen to make sure that your ministry, your organization is connected, and make sure you're following our pages. You can go to our website at kdrconsults.com. You can email us, and I want you to use the text solution. Text right now, Kingmaker, to 31996. I'm going to ask these 2 questions, and we're going to get out of here. Anybody on the panel can take this question. Erica asked the question, when it comes down to giving options, is Zelle a secure giving setting? When it comes down to giving options, gentlemen, is Zelle a secure giving setting?
Let me speak to that, not in terms of security, but accounting for the church. The problem with Zelle, it is going to be very difficult for your finance team in terms of your tax records. So not necessarily about brokering. That's usually from individual to individual, but in terms of keeping that data record of your giving is just going to require more work for the finance team. And so we were very hesitant to do it, and we only now do it when we're doing targeted giving for special projects. But again, that's not security breach for pastors and financial leaders. Just so you'll know, is just more tax work for your back office.
Wow. Guys, what you got? Unmute your device, Damon.
I'm not. You guys.
So,
yes, sir.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
You got me. Okay. Sorry about that. I come from the perspective of the security around Zelle. So yes, Zelle is, Zelle has built-in security mechanisms to protect those transactions. However, where the weakness or the vulnerability is the computer that you're making that Zelle transaction on. If that computer, your home computer, your work computer, your iPhone, whatever, if that device has malware on it, once you go in and enter all of your financial information, that malware is going to steal that, make a copy of that information, and send it out to the bad guys. So again, it's not so much a matter of the application of Zelle, it's what computer am I using it on, and is this computer secure?
And I think that's a big reality because, as Dr. Bryant talked about with the Cash App platform, Cash App is not designed for all ministries. And it is not always just your Cash App platform. But again, it's the device that you use the platform on. I just shared with you, we have these phone calls going out right now telling you Social Security is locking up and freezing your Social Security number because it's been hacked. They're also sending the same emails out. And if you're not paying attention to that, you are dumping yourself into a position that opens you up for attack. Fraser LePope the third says, what is the ideal capital investment to achieve optimum cybersecurity for a ministry? What is the ideal capital investment to achieve optimum cybersecurity for a ministry? I know that kind of gets into what we're getting ready to introduce to people, but overall, how do you all want to address that?
You know,
Mute again. So I'll take a shot at that. It really depends on the size of your organization, and it depends on the reach of your organization, and it depends on how your church interact with your church. If it's all on the security front and you have multiple satellite churches, multiple ways to get in, it's really from a network perspective and how many people get on your network. In terms of the applications you use, how many channels do you have and what's the nature of those applications? Is it custom stuff or is it stuff that you use like the platform you're using now where you signed up for it? There's no one-shot way to just look at someone and say, this is how much you should spend. You really need an assessment. You need someone to come and do an assessment and provide some recommendations. And depending on how robust you want to go, you could say, I just want to light touch at this at first, because this is what I could afford, or I want to go all out and ramp up. That's the recommended way. Don't think of it as, there's no one that could be able to give you an answer to say, this is how much you spend, this is optimal, and move on. It doesn't quite work that way. It depends on how many devices you have, how many servers. Is your church 100 people? Is your church 20,000 people? How many pastors do you have? There's no one formula to get this done, but working with a professional, they'll be able to give you some choices and some options to minimize the threat. And I want to say this real quick. There's no solution that's foolproof. If that's the case, a lot of the big organizations would just be secure and you'll never hear about this, right? Cybersecurity is really about minimizing the threats as much as possible and getting a program in place of tools, technology, policies to minimize this threat from this from happening. It's almost like an insurance to reduce the likelihood of this happening so you could be prepared and operate and keep the church going.
As we get ready to wrap up and go around the horn, I just got a text message. Thank you to the 237 of you who have already texted in to the Kingmaker to 31996. I want you to take your cybersecurity seriously. And I don't want you to be limited to it, because from that text, we've already designed packages for churches of every size to be able to make sure that you are where you need to be. And we're going to set up one-on-one sessions to be able to walk you through it. But we will not be able to do it if you don't text us or if you don't email us at the proper links and on the proper platforms. As we get ready to wrap up, Dr. Bryant, if you help us go around the horn, we'll go counterclockwise and then I'll wrap up. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you for your time, gentlemen. Dr. Bryant, the platform is all yours.
I'm grateful for all of you who have saw the significance of your ministry. The Bible says, where your treasure is, your heart is also. If you really care about your ministry, really concerned about your finances, you're going to do everything that's needed and necessary to secure it. Thank you again, Pastor Ross, for your leadership.
Thank you so much, Pastor Bryant.
Yes, thank you again, Pastor Ross and Pastor Bryant and gentlemen on the line. My final words are, don't click on any attachments that you don't know where it's coming from, and make strong passwords.
Thank you so much, Sheldon.
Thank you, Pastor Ross and Pastor Bryant. My closing comments is that this is a space that you cannot ignore. You have to take the steps to see where you are, assess where you are, have a plan, and work that plan to make your church as secure as possible. It's not an option anymore. You really have to do this.
And I'm really gonna really echo Sheldon's remarks. Technology, digital capabilities are becoming more and more critical and vital to remain, whether it's competitive or just give convenience to your congregations. But before implementing those technologies, you've got to ask yourself, how do I secure this from a cyber perspective?
Gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you for each one of you who have tuned in. I remember reading several years ago about an event in history, I believe it was 1972, that changed the airline industry. It was Flight 401. It was leaving LaGuardia Airport in New York, headed to Miami International Airport. The captain was Robert Loft. And everything with all of the experience of Captain Loft was thought to be in great circumstance and situation. And the flight was going smooth. It was a night flight. And probably about 30 minutes before they were getting ready to land, Captain Loft looked at the control panel and realized that the nose light indicator light had gone out. He became so inundated and flustered by looking at this blown light bulb that he did not realize that the plane was headed nose first for the Florida Everglades. And when he came to, he was in a situation where everybody on that flight lost their lives. And they got ready to go back and do an assessment. They realized that this nose light indicator was simply a blown light bulb. This light bulb cost no more than $1.87. But because he got so inundated with the light bulb, he turned in his captain's chair out of frustration and disengaged the autopilot. And because of a small issue, the security of the plane was jeopardized. And everybody, including the captain and the crew, lost their lives. Forever, the history of airlines was changed. And as we sit here in our circumstance, we're taking off, we are watching political history shift. We're feeling free from the circumstances of an egregious president. We thought COVID was going to destroy us. We can't go back into the sanctuary. And all of a sudden, God opened up opportunities for social media to allow us to reach the uttermost parts of the world. And right now, we see a small nose light indicator, a blown light bulb called cybersecurity. And because of the fact that we are minimizing the task and not focused on the assignment to save those that are lost, to go out and find those who have no voice, be able to support the cause of the least, the lost, and the left out. That is our task. Our assignment is still the reality that we've got to be great stewards over those that God has given us. And I'm challenging you who are pastors, who are leaders, who are deacons, who are decision makers. Don't allow something as small as this light bulb, this blown nose light indicator that says, hey, you can watch your plane go down if you don't make the proper adjustments, to make you turn off the autopilot because you're frantic and thinking that this can't happen to you. And you see a ministry that God has blessed you with, allowed to flourish, and you're realizing that it's headed nose first for destruction. I'm needing you. I am begging you. I am petitioning you not to minimize this moment. I want you to text the number on the bottom of the screen. Don't think that you're too small. Don't think that you're too big. Don't think that you have it all covered. We've done the due diligence for you. We've worked out the process to change the light bulb. But you can't get comfortable in your space in the kingdom and think it won't happen to you. Email us right now at corporateinfo@kdrconsults.com or simply text us. Text Kingmaker to 31996. make sure that you go back and share this video wherever you are with everybody you know if you're concerned about their success. I see this thing in the future, and I realize that now that you've been made aware, you can't go on like you don't know. Change the course of your circumstance. Secure your church. And don't find yourself guilty of washing your hands of something that you know you can correct in the right now. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for allowing this conversation to come into your space. I'm the pastor of Internet and Innovation, Kervance Ross, president of KDR Consulting. We are getting ready to help you. As long as you text, do it all night long. As long as you've emailed, do it all night long. And know we have solutions ready for you to have cyber salvation in an unsaved church. Thank you for tuning in. I pray that you have a drama-free, virus-free week, and I'll see you